Hello my fellow working class heroes, good day. I am Carlo and welcome to Carlo Excels. These are the objectives of this episode. In this particular lesson, we're going to talk about the IFERROR function. So we're going to start with the IFERROR function definition and then the applications of the IFERROR function. From Microsoft Excel's own help document, the IFERROR function returns a value you specify if a formula evaluates to an error. Otherwise, returns the result of the formula. Use the IFERROR function to trap and handle errors in a formula. For the IFERROR function, the function name is IFERROR, and for your function arguments, you have two. First, you have the value, and then you have the value IFERROR. When you use the IFERROR function, this is what the function will look like when you use it in a formula. So you have here the function name IFERROR, and then you have two arguments, the value and the value IFERROR. Let's first individually talk about what the value and value IFERROR is so that you understand what the IFERROR function truly does. So let's first start with the value argument. So in other words, this argument over here. The value argument, this is a constant value, a constant text, a cell reference, a function or formula that Excel will check first. If this is not an error, then Excel will display this value. Next, we have this argument, the value IFERROR. This is a constant value, constant text, cell reference, function, or formula that Excel will display if the value argument is any type of error. So to summarize and clarify it, the IFERROR function works this way. First, you have your value. If the value is a valid value, in other words, if it is not an error, then Microsoft Excel is going to execute and display this value. If this value, however, is any kind of error, whether it's a reference error, an NA error, a divide by zero error, any kind of error, if it is an error, then Microsoft Excel will display or execute the value IFERROR argument instead. So we're here at Microsoft Excel. Now we have here three cells here. So you have number 1, and then you have number 2, and then you have here your result cell. So let's use the IFERROR function in this case. So let's use the IFERROR function in the result cell so I can demonstrate what the IFERROR function does. So calling out the IFERROR function name like so, IFERROR, and then open parenthesis. So it is now looking for the value argument first. So for this value argument, let's try the following. So IFERROR, let's try adding, for the value, let's try adding cell B1 with cell B3 like this. So this is our value argument. And then we press comma to proceed to the next argument, which is the value IFERROR. Now, we're simply asking Microsoft Excel to add B1 and B3. But if the result of B1 adding B1 and B3 is any kind of error, then we want cell B5 to say the words error like this. So you have here your value, and then you have here your value IFERROR, and then close parenthesis. So once again, to review our definitions from a while ago, this is your value argument here, and this is your value IFERROR argument here. So what Microsoft Excel is going to do here is going to execute the value argument first. If this is not an error, then Microsoft Excel is simply going to display the result of this particular argument. If this results to an error, then Microsoft Excel is going to execute or display this particular part of this argument instead. So to enter, to finally use this, let's just press enter. So right now, the result is 0 because B1 is blank and B3 is blank. B1 blank cells have a numerical value of 0. So 0 plus 0 is 0, no error there. Now, if we put in any number in cell B1 like this, let's put in here, for example, 10. And then in cell B3, let's put in here 100, for example. No problem there because 10 plus 100 is equal to 110. No error so far. However, if we put in text data on cell B1 instead of number data, now, if you remember our previous lesson, especially lessons on basic calculations, you cannot add text data with number data. You can concatenate them, but you cannot add them. So therefore, if we attempt to add this is going to create a number error. So let's press enter. So when you create a number error like so, instead of displaying num error here on the result, it is instead displaying the error message because we use the IFERROR function to check if B1 plus B3 is going to be an error. And if it is an error, just like we specified, it is now displaying the error message. And once again, this doesn't just work with num errors. This works with any kind of error. Not applicable errors, reference errors. In fact, let's demonstrate a reference error here. So let's put this back to 10. And you have here, of course, a valid result because 10 plus 100 is 110, no error there. But if we delete this row here, let's delete it. When we delete it, of course, that creates an error because you removed the cell reference, the cells that you're supposed to calculate. Because you removed that, you have now created a reference error here. And because that's a reference error, you are now displaying an error message here because of the if error. So as you can see, the if error is very, very useful because the if error allows you to catch potential errors. If you can already anticipate certain errors in particular parts of your worksheet, you can use the if error function to specify what you want Microsoft Excel to do if in case there are errors. Now for my fellow teachers, one particular use of the if error function is when we are preparing our class records, but our class records are still blank. Take for example, this class record over here. So if your school calculates grades instead of using the deped method, you're calculating grades by averages. This is probably what your class record will look like. So for quiz number 1, you have your students, of course. Then you have here for quiz number 1, the total number of items of the student. And then you have here the raw score. And then you have here the percentage score. So what's going to happen in this case is the percentage score is going to look like this. This cell, which is the raw score of the student, divided by the number of items. Let's put an average. Let's put an absolute row for that. Divided by 100, which will give you, times 100, which will give you a percentage score like so. However, as you notice, whenever you attempt to do this calculation, especially when the quiz is still blank, meaning the quiz has not yet happened, you will get a divide by 0 error because you're trying to divide B3 with B2, but B2 is still blank, so B2 is still 0, and of course that's a divide by 0 error. So one very good way to solve this, of course, is by using the if error function. So what we can do is, instead of allowing this ugly error to appear there, let's use the if error function like so. So if error, to calculate this value here. If that value is not an error, then it will proceed to calculate that value. But if it is an error, let's say for example, let's ask Microsoft Excel to display the words blank on that particular cell. So instead of having an error message over here, you are simply displaying the word blank. So let's try copy pasting that here, and then let's copy all of that. Paste that, copy all of that, and then paste it there, and then paste it there. So in this case, the moment you put in the number of items here, for example, let's put in the number of items in this particular quiz, we have 30 as our number of items. The moment you put in 30, the divide by 0 error no longer applies because now you have a solid number as your divisor. So therefore, this now converts to 0, and this now converts into a proper percentage score because you have now entered the number of items. Meaning, you have blanks for quizzes that haven't happened yet, and you have zeros or proper percentage scores for quizzes that have already happened. So that is just one application of the if error function. There are many other applications of the if error function. So once again, the if error function is very handy for you to catch errors, especially when you can anticipate them. So that's it for our lesson on the if error function. I hope I earned your subscription today. Once again, I am Carlo, and this is Carlo Excels. Thank you very much for watching.